right? It's when it says that Hashem took the dust of the earth. Yeah, he took the dust. That's a very nice way of explaining it. It doesn't mean the dust of the earth. He took the earth, minerals of the earth. That's what you are. We physically are just minerals. So there's a guf, which is purely physical, and then there's a neshama, soul, which is completely non-physical. The soul has got no atoms. It's not made up of spinning electrons. The closest analogy we have is light. That's the closest we can get to. It's an analogy still. So you have a completely spiritual entity, and you have physical entity, and yet they exist and they coexist inside you. Right? This is the wonder of every single one of us. Is the Ramah. The wonder of a person is you have a soul and a body that can sleep together and interact with each other, as you know. When your spirit is high, when you're feeling good, when your whole body responds. You know, when you're feeling down, your spirit's down. It affects your body, affects your health. So much of our ill health comes from just emotional and spiritual sickness. It flows into our physical body, other way around as well. So here's the story: your soul is plucked and popped into your body, and you're born into this world. And there's a journey you have to go through where the soul and the body have to interact. As the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Lutzato says in the book Mesilat Yesharim, is at the beginning, when the baby's born, the baby's crying. Everyone's happy and smiley, but the baby actually comes to the world crying. Because it's just come out from the world of souls, and now it's put into the physical. It's like, what am I doing here? Whoa, I was just up then, and now I'm like in this physical world. Like, you don't know where I was just now. Like, this is nothing to me. The Ramchal uses the analogy of the princess and the farmer. He says, like, you have the princess, this princess in the, Peach Prince, is that what they call it? My kids always playing Super Mario stuff. Right? She's out in the castle having this incredible, and then, I don't know how they made the shidduch, by the way, because they got it all wrong in the shidduch, but somehow the princess married some farmer. Okay, whatever. Maybe it was a very good looking farmer. And she goes off to live on the farm. And the farmer is like so happy, he's married this beautiful princess and he wants to do the best thing for her. So he goes off and decides to make the best dinner. And he makes her this beautiful meal of turnips with sort of just like the 2-day-old oats with the turnips. That's the best he's got. And he garnishes it with some like chives from the garden and maybe just a rotten apple on the side. And he's like, here, darling. So I love you so much, here you are. And he gives this to show. And she's like, thanks, but... And she's like, she feels bad to eat it or not, but he's like, well, I gave you everything. And so then Ramchal, this is the analogy of like your body and your soul. Your soul comes from this place, like the highest realm, in your body the whole time. And your body's trying to do things like, with all the world we're flying in right now, the body's like trying to give the soul. And the soul's like, you know what, this is not what I'm used to. This is not what I want, it's not what I need. But the body's like, have it, it's good. And after a while, if we don't look after our souls, and we don't tune into our souls, we don't tune into ourselves, we don't tune into who we truly are, after a while, right, the body somehow is able to trick the soul into the princess just kind of forgets about the palace. She forgets about the palace entirely. She just comes and lives on the farm and that's it. And there's sometimes some moments in your life where suddenly the princess just like wakes up and is like, whoa, what the heck am I doing here? In the farm. There's those moments of like, everyone, I don't know about you, but like, it's what I did about pangs of tshuva. Some of Rav Kook, a very famous Rav Kook, talks I did about pangs of tshuva. Do you guys know what I mean by a pang of tshuva? You're suddenly somewhere, you could be, I don't know, in a nightclub, you could be out with friends, and suddenly from nowhere, it's like this, whoa, what am I doing here? Like, what's this? Like, am I really even enjoying this? Do I really even want this? Am I enjoying this conversation? Is this a conversation I even want to be having? Is this a relationship I want to be doing? Suddenly from nowhere, like the princess wakes up from the dreams, like, what the heck am I doing here? So there's the body and the soul, and they're interacting together, and you go through this whole journey of the year. On Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the day where the princess gets to come home again. The princess gets to be back in the palace with who she is. It's a famous story I like to tell. I'm sure I've told it to JD before, but I'll tell you guys because I think it's such a powerful story. The story is from the great rabbi called the Piazetz the Rebbe. Piazetz the Rebbe was he was one of the great educators of the previous century. He was killed by the Nazis in 1943, and he was way beyond his time in terms of his understanding of education, his understanding of the beauty of bringing children up into this world properly with love. Like, you read one of his books, he's got a book called The Student's Obligation, and he says, speak to Jewish children about how loved they are and how to express Hashem's love to each child. It was revolutionary. So he would tell this story about it's always about a king and a prince. It always is. Sorry, that's just the way it is. Always kings and princes. And there was the king, and he had his son, the prince. And the prince, got in with the bad crowd, right? And they're out smoking drugs and doing all sorts of stuff. It just is not suitable for the king. And the king's like getting fed up with his son. He threatens him. He's going to banish him. And the son's just getting worse and worse. And it's just like he's out all night. He doesn't know where he is. He's in the clubs and the bars, and it's just like, to a certain extent, like the king just can't have it anymore. And after one crazy all-nighter, when he comes in drunk, staggering, the king says to his son, like, you have to leave. I'm banishing you. Like, you can't be anymore. I never want to see you again. Get out of it. You don't listen to me. You don't listen to what I'm saying. Get out. I never want to see you again. And he kicks him out, and you hear the screech of tires as the prince drives off out into the middle of the city somewhere. And as with all the stories, they're always the same, which is 1 month later, the king misses his son, and he wants his son back again. He wishes he never said it to his son. And he's got those words that were said, he wishes he never said it. So he sends out text messages, WhatsApps, and the kids, he's not interested. He blocks him, there's no way he can get hold of him. So now he starts getting all his friends to knock on the door to ask him to come. He's like, I'm not interested. I'm not going home. So out of desperation, sheer desperation, he puts an ad in the newspaper. Says my son, the prince, won't come home. I'm offering a reward of $1 million to anyone that can bring my son. Why dollars always? Why pounds? £1 million, thank you.
It's more valuable.
You have England, not America.
And it's more valuable as well.
Yeah, 1 million, exactly pounds. £1 million. Because there was stories of like $1 million. Sounds more like £1 million to get my son back. Whoever gets my son back, £1 million. So everyone tries different things, this, that, and all these different tricks, doesn't work. So one day a guy rocks up and that kind of professor look, hair all over the place, and he says to Your Majesty, I'll get your son back. I need one thing from you, just one thing. He said, what's that? He goes, I just need from you the most powerful telescope in the world, most powerful telescope. This specification, da 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 da. Fine. They get it for him, and a week later he's got a telescope in a case, and off he goes. He finds his way to where the prince is living, and he knocks on the door, and there's no answer. So he knocks again, rings the doorbell, he's there for like 2 hours knocking the door, nothing, until finally the prince is obviously just fed up, comes to the door, looks at the thing, get lost, go away. So no, please, he says, I'm not going to say a word to you, I won't say one thing. Be totally silent, I will not say a word to you. Just please let me into the room, and I want to show you one thing. Show you one thing. So the prince is just whatever, I don't care. So he opens the door, you hear all the locks coming, and the door opens, and true to his word, this professor guy walks in, he goes to the window, and he sets up the telescope. And a few minutes later, he calls over the prince and says, just take a look. He doesn't speak, right? He just points and says, So the prince goes over, he looks down, he opens his eyes, and he sees the view is straight through the window, all the way up to the palace, through the windows of the palace, all the way to the throne room of the palace, to the crown that's sitting on the chair inside the throne room of the king's palace. And he stares at it, and he keeps staring at it, and he looks up, he says, take me home. Puts him in the car, he comes back to his father, into his arms, end of story. And what's the Nimshal, what's the Piazet's ever saying here? He's saying that every single one of us, really, the whole princess thing, right? Prince, princess, what do you want to say? Inside of us is that longing and desire to go back to the crown, to go back to that place of kingship, of purity, of oneness, of a sense of connection, a sense of soul being on top of body, right? Soul and body need to exist together, but it's the ascendancy of soul. It's the understanding of making decisions that are real, that aren't just instant gratification, but actually long-term goals, long-term needs, long-term aims. And there's moments in our lives where we get an opportunity to peek into that telescope and see, come on. And Yom Kippur is one of those days. Because without the body, without the physical pulling down, without the need to be involved in the physical world, it's only for one day, because Hashem says, we love the body. This isn't a religion where we negate the body. We don't negate the body. I think it's really important to understand that. We don't say the body is bad. Chas v'shalom, the body is amazing, the body is incredible, we love the body. what is so important, right? There's things we'll do to keep parts of the body, to keep body parts. It's such an important thing. So we don't negate the body. What we say is body and soul work together, live together, but also always the soul in ascendancy. It's always a soul-driven life. It's always a neshama-driven life. And one day a year we get to peek into the telescope and say, and what the beautiful thing about Yom Kippur is, it's that day where we get dunked in this mikveh of time. It's a mikveh of time. Your soul, your body, everything gets dunked in the mikveh of time. Like you said just now, Noy, about wearing white. It's this whole idea, same concept, like wearing white the whole day. We come to a place of absolute purity, absolute oneness. And with that, we pop up the other end just without any baggage. What happened, happened. We move on. We move on and we return back to that equilibrium, to that sense of self, of who we truly are. And that, my friends, is the joy of Yom Kippur. That's how you go from oy to joy. By going to that day, say, you know what, it's going to be hard about eating, I appreciate that. And it's going to be hard not to drink, and it's going to be hard to focus. But if during this day I can just tune into this, I can tune into this notion of like just pulling away the layers, ask myself these questions. Now, let's make it clear, right? Before Yom Kippur, all the stuff between you and other people has to be sorted out. One of the big mistakes people make is they don't understand. So if you've done something to another person, if there's something impediment, there's some blockage, if there's some stain because of something you've done to another person, now's the time to do it, before Sunday night. Although it's a beautiful thing, I love that idea that on Sunday there'll be lots of phone calls going around all over Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, phones of people phoning up, sometimes people's phoning up teachers to apologize, friends phoning each other saying, I'm sorry, and it's a beautiful thing to think about, that people take it so seriously. In my experience, people also just think it's so far away, they want to go into Yom Kippur feeling clean by saying sorry and making amends. So that's the first thing. And then when you've done that, you go into Yom Kippur, you feel, that's it, it's just now to have you and Hashem. And it's about regretting that sense of going away. It's about regretting a sense of moving away from Hashem. And instead, it's about moving forward with this sense of like, I know who I truly am. I can peek into who I truly am. So let's go back to what we said at the beginning. Like angels for a day, who are we killing? Who are we killing? It's not true. The answer is no, it is true. Because an angel is really, not an angel, we're not angels. Okay, let's be clear. We're not angels. Hashem's got enough angels. He much prefers us because we have the power to choose. Right? That we have the power of Bechira. We can choose how we want to shop. Well, angels don't get to choose. We choose. Angels don't. It's not that we're angels. It's just that on this day, we're not kidding when we say that we identify with this side of us that is eternal. That side of us which is it can lift itself out. That can choose against all the pressures and all the peer pressures and all the physical temptations. There's a part of us that can choose greatness, that can choose to be able to connect to Hashem in all different manners. We have that side of us, and it's really about like kind of tuning into that on Yom Kippur and being at home, really coming home. And that's why the Maharal says that Yom Kippur and Yovel is the same thing. Just like all the land goes back to how it was before, Yom Kippur, you can come back really to you, to your true self. And then when Yom Kippur is finished, you move off with that echo inside of you, like, I know who I am, going on my journey, going out on my journey for the next year, but I know I'm going to find myself in situations, whether it's in the pubs or the clubs with friends, or in conversations, and everyone's having their lunch, and someone throws up some Lashon Hara, and there's a juicy thing going, but I know that echo will still be there, and I'll choose the right thing, I'll choose to be me, the true essence of who I am. I'm not going to give up on that, I'm going to be me, the true me. I'm not going to pretend to be something else, I'm going to be the true essence of who I am. Yom Kippur is that day when you pull away the layers, you pull away all the coverings, and you come back to you. And there's nothing better. There's no greater feeling than being in synthesis with Hashem. There's no greater feeling than being truly at home with yourself. So I actually want to add to this. It's amazing that like at the end of Yom Kippur, we go straight in saying, it's really weird. You finish Yom Kippur, and you go straight after Yom Kippur and saying the words, and Hashem, the one who forgives all, who forgives all sin. You just got. Hashem just forgave you everything, and then you're going to say to Hashem, "Thank you for forgiving all sin." But you just forgave me, and then we're going to say Shemona Esrei. We're going to say the 18 blessings straight after Yom Kippur, and we're going to say Slach la'anu v'gichatanu. We're going to ask Hashem to forgive. But you won't use So I'm going to finish with this. Elimelech Lezhensk, a great Hasidic Rebbe, Elimelech Lezhensk says, but what's the sin we're saying when you say Slach Lanu Avinu? What's the sin that you're saying I'm sorry for? You just got forgiven. Your slate is clean. You go to Yom Kippur as white as whiteness, right? So what's the sin you're saying sorry for? Anyone asked this question before? Rookie, you asked this question before? What's the sin you're saying sorry for? If someone said like once, oh, you might have stepped on someone's toe like at the end of Yom Kippur or something like that. So Eliyahu Hijaz says the most beautiful thing. He says the sin is that a Jew sometimes thinks that maybe Hashem didn't forgive him and doesn't love him as much as Hashem does. And Rabbi Eliyahu says that's the sin. That's the sin of thinking Hashem doesn't embrace you on Yom Kippur and didn't really embrace you. So the avoider is and I have here, I'll be honest with you, I have sheets of other things. I don't know if you've got more time, but I think now's the time to stop. I can come back for a part two or something like that. But I can open up for questions as well. If you've got some questions, that'd be nice, yeah?